I'd like to welcome everybody to the Withervale Grand Council Chamber, built by our lovely Vulcan 1776. Can we have a round of applause for Vulcan? Vulcan, jump! Jump over there, this beautiful place, built by this man over here. Look at this. Great, amazing. Let's get the, where is it?
Thank you.
There's no sound effects anymore.
It is fucking great. It does look really good.
Yes. I wish that our former Jarl was here as well to make the event, but unfortunately, he cannot be here due to a tragic hang gliding accident. He was not on the glider at the time, but he read the story in a newspaper and it upset him deeply. So he is not fit for showing up today. He's very upset. And yes, I hope that you all enjoy the... oh yes, by the way, there are drugs sold right outside this council chamber and food on request from our perfect and lovely catering team if anybody gets hungry. And there are cakes also in the next room. Now, I would like to return the stand to our moderator, the JMQN.
I appreciate the speech. Thank you.
It's okay.
Yes, that's very nice. All right, so I believe we're here to begin with the little constitutional convention.
The what?
A constitutional convention.
Constitution.
That's
Yes.
it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking we would do is we'd go through all the sections one by one, the 8 sections, and see if anyone has any issues with any of them that you can bring up. And there we go. I guess I'll read the preface first in case anyone says the Imperial Federation shall strive to bring peace and prosperity to the world, while still allowing citizens to retain autonomy in their states, protection from external threats, along with organizing large-scale efforts of defense, infrastructure, and factories to give us common goals to work towards. So that's the goal of the Imperial Federation. I'll go to the podium.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So Section 1 is about the King of the Imperial Federation. Now, does anyone have any comments regarding the King of the Imperial Federation and their role?
Yeah, where is he? Where is he?
Yes.
Unfortunately, our dear king is currently absent.
There's a fight going on back here.
Tragic hang gliding accident, anyone?
Could have been hang gliding accident. We don't know.
Was he on the hang glide?
One specific thing in the king section I would like to bring up that maybe someone will have an issue with is the electoral commission right now, which is tasked with overseeing the elections. I know some people in the past have brought up that it seems to be a little bit of an inefficient body, possibly, that is picked quite strangely. So would anyone like to discuss that or have any comments on the electoral commission?
I think it worked quite well last time, more so than any other previous election, I think.
Okay, so seems like we're in agreement about the current electoral commission. That's good to hear. No changes needed to that. Another part of the Constitution is that the King of the Imperial Federation reserves the right to suspend the government of the Imperial Federation with the consent of 2 of the 3 bodies, either the Senate, with an expression of more than a 50% vote, the Chancellor, by his consent, or the Judiciary, if all 3 justices agree. Now, do we think anyone have any issues with the King being able to suspend the government with those groups? Yes, the King is one of the judges. However, all 3 of the judges' consents are required. Yes, it used to be 2 out of 3, but it was changed to be 3 out of 3 because they're quite problematic. All right, any other issues with the King that anyone would like to bring up before we move on to the section on the Chancellor? Nope. All right. So the first thing to bring up about the Chancellor is the current election period, which is, it says, elections occur no sooner than 40 days after the announcement of the previous election results. and no later than the first full weekend after the 40 days after the announcement of the previous election results. Now, to me, that seems like quite a long and confusing paragraph about when elections should be, which maybe is not the best thing, because elections should be, I think, quite regular and not controversial on the date. So, does anyone have any issues with that section? Personally, I have an issue with it.
Which one? I didn't listen. Sorry. Which section?
Section 2, Clause 1 about the elections.
Oh.
So I know personally, there's some people who would like the elections to be a little shorter, and some would like it to be a little longer. So does anyone have any comments on how often elections take place?
How often do they take place?
It says no sooner than 40 days after the announcement of the previous election results, and no later than the first full weekend after the 40 days after the announcement of the election results. So it's about 40 to 45 days.
I think it's mainly after the voting term is over. If people complain about the amount of time the Electoral Commission takes.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's because it's not within 24 hours people are complaining. But I feel like they just need to be more patient. If it's taking over like 36 hours, there isn't a specific reason, then that should be.
I see. So let's go around the states here. In Grove Heart, what are your thoughts on the current election terms? Are they too short, too long, or just right? They make it a simpler 9-week cycle, 8-week chancellor term, and then 1-week voting candidacy election period. I see. Month is 2 weeks. So
and we used to have a shorter terms, and we complained that it's not long enough, and then we switched to a little bit longer, and now the problem is that it's too long. Like, frankly, 40 days, yeah, it kind of feels a lot, but it's not that much, especially when you're the chancellor. You don't have that much time to implement all the things you want to do in the first term. So 40 days is just like a compromise.
Mm-hmm. I see. Let's hear the opinion of the chancellor who just quit. Do you have any thoughts on this? Yes, I'll go to your thoughts.
Oth says he wants 60-day term.
Would anyone in favor of a 60-day term like to take the podium and discuss why you say so?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, I heed the podium.
I haven't been chancellor, but I have been here for a long time now, and I think the terms need to be, or should be 2 months, like even. Some people think it's too long with 40 days, but I think it's too little. Like, Sloth spent his entire term building a single vault and nothing else, which is a lot. It's a lot to do, but like, most chancellors don't have the time to achieve everything they want within just 40 days. It's not a super long time.
At the same time, try running the country for the 40 days. It's a fucking brain rot dealing with all this bullshit. The only thing that you're gonna achieve with expanding the terms is that you're gonna have even more burned out chancellors, as we've seen with me, as we've seen with Gideon, as we've seen with Kara, and probably other people as well. Just a lot. Like, the responsibility is massive. It's not a good idea to expand it to 60 days unless we're willing to devolve the power even further and have the department actually do what they are told.
I mean, the departments do a lot of what they're told. Currently, it's just that the chancellor usually sticks as, like, last time it was Gideon who was economy as well, so he focused a lot on that. Sloth was defense. Like, it's usually that the chancellor ends up as one of the departments, and that's what they mainly do. But I think we could do 2 months even if we could do even 2 months term if we had the departments actually being allowed to do more stuff and like having a semi-larger budget if possible. Like, the chancellor can't do everything on their own. They're supposed to lead.
As the nation gets bigger, we're gonna get more of that burnout. However, where can some of that be distributed to the vice chancellor? Say, I don't know what the exact workload has been between the Vice Chancellor and Chancellor, but I think that could help, probably.
Something to consider also with regards to the Vault is that, yes, it was a lot to do in one term, but I don't think most people finish a Vault that quickly. And so I don't know that we should necessarily use that as the standard for how long a Chancellor should be in office.
I'm not saying we should thug out a Vault per term, but I'm just saying like most Chancellor have like a big election promise. Sloth's was the Vault, Gideon's was the economy. I don't know about the other Chancellors, but like there's usually one big thing they want to do. That's the only thing they have time to do. If they had 2 months, they would probably be able to do that and a little bit more within their term.
But at the same time, you can always run for another term. It's not that you're limited to one term, and it's basically a direct opinion poll by the population if they agree with the policies that you have undertaken in the first time.
Another thing with longer terms would be the fact that other nations, like in terms of alliances, have mentioned the fact that they don't find us reliable because like our leadership changes too often. Currently with 40 days, we're switching Chancellor about, let's see, it's 9 times per year. If we made it 2 terms, we would have 6 terms per year instead of 9, which is a lot less.
I would make them. Because also the Chancellor is the head of diplomacy, essentially.
Yeah.
Actually, Chancellor is not the head of diplomacy, it's the king. Chancellor helps the king.
But, yeah.
In practice, it's the Chancellor.
About being unreliable if Jalth has been there the entire time.
And we have only heard that from one nation, and I'm not going to reveal more because some things are not to be said.
So I think we can probably move on from this point, right?
Yeah, I just like to bring up one more thing that, of course, the Chancellor can just be re-elected if the people believe their terms are too short. They can just run again. They think they have not accomplished anything, and then that can be left to the people.
Yeah, and a short notice on that point as well. If we do 2 months, and if people find that a problem because, the Chancellor becomes unpopular or something, they can be removed. Like a Chancellor can be removed relatively easily by the Senate, so it's not like a huge thing.
I see. All right, well, let's move on to the next point. Sloth, you can type your point in chat if you leave the podium. I'll just stand on top of you. I'll stand on the podium. So I heard some people mention the department system, which is something that's a relatively new creation of the Imperial Federation. And it's something that I believe a lot of people say is successful. But one thing that to point out right now is that the departments are actually not in the Constitution. All the departments are basically just created by the Senate, and then the Senate agrees to delegate their power to the department heads. And that's just done through a bill that was passed a while ago. And the Senate can overturn any decision of a department head at any point for any reason. Does anyone have any comments on that system, or do we think that's fine?
I think they should be made into they should be put into the Constitution, I think.
Yes, having several departments ruling obviously makes your system slightly more stable, acting the same way continuously, since the departments don't change as fast as the Chancellor.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that's an argument in favor of shorter terms? Or?
I would say that's an argument in favor of putting the departments in the Constitution so they cannot be removed as easily.
I see.
Yeah, like the departments, of course I'm kind of biased since I've run the same department for like 3 months now, but like they've been rather successful. Like they've achieved more, I think, than we expected them to. And they are just passed by like a single bill in the Senate, so a Chancellor could relatively easily revoke it with just like a 50% vote, and there goes like 4 months of department progress. Or like, yeah, I think they should be more like written into the as a cornerstone of the government, rather than just being based on a single bill in the Senate, which can be repealed by 50%.
So does anyone have any counter arguments to that? Why it should not be written into the Constitution?
I mean, we haven't. None of the Chancellor heads have changed, so it would make sense to have them more permanent, so they don't have to rely on other actors. I mean, I know the heads should be it should be able to be changed, but if people who are doing the jobs are doing well, but they have to keep adjusting to like a new budget and chancellor, and they're probably not able to be as effective as we would probably want them.
I do kind of agree with what Byhalia says. Heads should be responsible to the Senate, because if they're, we have to make sure that whatever we write into the Constitution, we're okay with that power being essentially removed from the Senate and given back to the executive branch. Because if they are written into the Constitution, they are no longer beholden to what the Senate demands of them.
I think they should be like, what we could do is have, it's like, because right now they are officially appointed each term by the new chancellor and the Senate approves them. But that needs to be done every term. For now, I don't think any department head has been like denied by a Senate vote. If we write them into the Consti as like a separate section, like with you have the chancellor, you have the Senate, and you have the departments, you could have them be like a constitutional thing, but they could be subservient to the whims of the, like they're supposed to be led in direction by the chancellor, but they are beholden to the Senate in terms of like the powers. But just have them be grounded in the Constitution as a base. And then I also think the department heads should be, like, it's good that they're nominated by the Chancellor for now, but, like, they should stay on, like, indefinitely, unless, like, let's see, I'm the head of infrastructure. If I just keep doing a good job and no one minds it, I could stay on without me being reappointed officially. But if I do a bad job, then the Senate could remove me and make the Chancellor nominate a new one. Like, we do that more on a base of like when it's necessary instead of doing it every term. Something like that for the heads specifically.
I see. So this chancellor would not have to renominate heads each term, is what you're proposing. They'd have to specifically remove a head.
Yeah, so if the head is doing a bad job, they can be removed by the Senate. And then the Senate instructs the Chancellor to appoint or like nominate a new head, which the Senate can approve. And they just hold that position until like they're removed or quit by themselves, instead of having them be reappointed every term, which is kind of unnecessary if they're doing a good job. Like,
I mean, if they haven't. I feel like they've just ended up staying the same and not really had reappointment.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I just feel it's unnecessary to like keep nominating it every term.
Something to consider moving forward with these positions also is that currently, I think it would be very difficult, if not, fatal for some departments if a leader was to be changed. For example, Sloth, he's like the only guy who's really good at military, right? And he really enjoys that, and so he's a very good leader for that department. But if he were to be changed in the future, how would that transition of power happen? Because he has a lot of knowledge that I don't think is written down anywhere else. Not necessarily in terms of tactics or skill, but like in terms of infrastructure and stuff like that.
Sloth was not the original Department of Defense.
No, he wasn't. I do know that.
My point being, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I get your point.
Is there some method of transferring knowledge of like resources that they have built up, or of infrastructure that they've created? Do people keep track of that stuff when they're the leader?
In terms of like practical stuff, all the groups of all the departments, infrastructure and defense, they're all owned primarily by the king. So like in terms of actual transfer of power, it's just up to the king to actually like change the NLs. But if we're talking like keeping track of stuff, like a lot of stuff is kept in the department categories, which not everyone can see. Like the defense has a lot of channels with a lot of info in it. No, it's not cataloged specifically. So it's kind of a lot of the knowledge relies on it being passed between them. But in practice, like all of the groups and stuff are owned by the king, so that shouldn't be an issue. Only the knowledge, maybe. But we could try to, like, we do have department reports that the heads are supposed to send to the Senate each month to like keep track of what's happened, what's planned, what budgets used, etc. Like there is supposed to be a cataloging system. We just need to remember to do it every month. That's I guess a way of keeping track. It just haven't happened a lot because people just forget to write reports each month. But they do exist.
Also, like our friend Tug, aka Mats, said, you said earlier that doing a good or bad job, that like with the building stuff, but that is a bit objective, standing on your political ideologies, like Mod said earlier in chat, and he basically asked.
Yes. To notify that. Yes, doing a good or bad job is subjective. So of course,
so that's
we do need to realize who is the judge of what is and is not
I would
done
say,
well.
I would say we do.
That is only one person we will be.
No, like a group of 5 people, all with different tastes, you know, and we do a vote on it, or like everyone. But what could be
that would add a whole another aspect. We
like a group of 5 to 10
probably
people,
just
all
use
with
a pre-existing system.
Way too complicated.
We could just have the Senate
it's complicated.
Yeah,
if the
Senate
heads,
is fine.
If the heads do the reports and report honestly what's happened and what's not happened, like they can, if they read the reports and the reports are correct, and it says, "Oh, I just made a single ISO that's 400 blocks long, like in an entire month," that's not a lot. Then the Senate can, "Oh, this is not working. We'll replace you."
Yeah, but like, it's also like, sorry, it's also in the in other servers, I have a very simple / like what some people would call, like what my friends would call, an ugly building style. And by that I mean I build whatever I feel like with colors and that kind of stuff. So it's also, you know, and I would find that pretty, but like someone else could find it, well, very bad. So it's also,
I understand.
Has the same building style, then yeah.
But
then
like in terms of
but if you have,
there isn't much to the departments regarding like preferences and such. There's just the
if you have built what was asked of you, then you have done well your job, and that if that's it should be probably good.
Is like a building style going to be asked? Because this I've not been.
I've
not been.
I think we should have one more minute. One more minute, then we'll move on.
I'll shut up.
For a while, so wrap up your final points. Or we can move on right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to other parts about the Chancellor. Does anyone have any other things to mention about the Chancellor? I think one thing to mention right now is the Vice Chancellor as a position. It's currently not elected by the people. This is something that was mentioned to someone. It's technically not elected in any way. The Chancellor just says that they'll appoint someone, and the Senate has to approve that. I've heard suggestions that maybe the Vice Chancellor should run as an official elected position alongside the Chancellor instead of being just appointed by the Chancellor. Yeah, so do we think some sort of running mate idea could be good? Or maybe run...
And the Vice Chancellor should just run together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, the point is really they do not. The Vice Chancellor is technically nominated afterwards and then has to be approved by the Senate.
But then you have the problem of like what happens
because you know who the Vice Chancellor is beforehand, rather than the Chancellor getting elected and then picking Vice Chancellor over when people are going to vote. They know who a Vice Chancellor would be when voting for said Chancellor.
Yeah.
And for that matter, what happens like with this last election? Leo, like Southwest, was supposed to be Vice Chancellor, but he got banned, expectedly.
Then the Chancellor chooses another one.
Yeah, but then they
then that's just a very different... That's a very different situation.
I mean, Chancellors being banned is relatively common.
Wrong time to get rid of the Vice. The Vice does nothing. We can get rid of the Vice.
No, the Vice is good.
But what has the Vice ever done? What has the Vice ever done?
Step in for the Chancellor?
They just step in for the Chancellor.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the point of a Vice.
They also do a lot of that.
Yeah, but then they got in without being voted in, so it's like, what? It's kind of dumb.
They were voted in by the Senate, Crispy. Like, it's not just like they aren't just.
No, because they weren't announced before that. They weren't announced before that. So basically, you just voted in someone like who wasn't even voted in. Like,
yeah, but keep in mind here. So the Chancellor runs. He nominates a VC. The VC has to be approved by the Senate. And then let's say the normal Chancellor quits. The VC is supposed to become Chancellor. That also has to be approved by the Senate. So in any step of the way, they always needs approval from the Senate anyways. And they can just call
them like no one's gonna not approve it. It's just like a super big vote. Like everyone's just gonna say yes. Like, have you ever seen it not get approved?
Yes.
Sloth.
I've seen that. It happened like 7 months ago.
No, it happened. It happened with Sloth was denied vice chancellor.
That's the case. Someone denied. I forget which chancellorship it was, but Sloth was supposed to be the VC and got denied. So.
Hold on, one second. We have a suggestion from Sloth that the runner-up in the election should become vice chancellor. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
No.
I do. Chancellor and vice chancellor should just run together.
No, but people want that guy. No one voted. I'm no offense to him, but no one voted for this guy.
That actually, if you would have the runner-up lead, that would result in the vice being the complete opposite of the actual running person, since strategic voting as well.
So it seems like we do not like that idea. So
I think that's better.
Do we think that having the vice chancellor be an actual running mate in the Constitution instead of just
they should just run together.
It seems like that seems to be the consensus, and the Senate will vote on it.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 2022. That's how the method was.
No, actually, there was no vice chancellor position. What it was is there was a position called the Lord High Chancellor, who was just picked by the Senate, chancellor? And it was just me for 6 months straight, and I never was elected. So I don't think that's the best idea.
I know the U.S. had the system that was proposed where the runner-up was the VC.
Yeah, that's how it originally was. They got rid of it.
But it resulted in the vice president and the president basically having total polar opposites.
Yeah.
That's fair. So there's one more section. This was something that was recently added in the Chancellor section, that the Chancellor reserves the right to veto any bill passed by the Senate if there's less than a 2/3 majority vote on that bill. So what are people's... This has never been used, by the way, but still theoretically there. So do people think this veto is a good idea?
Honestly, I think it's fine.
It was introduced like 6 months ago for like there was a controversial bill. I can't remember what it was regarding about, but afterwards we felt that someone needs to be able to step in if that happens. Like if someone's trying to pass like a controversial thing with like a slim majority, then the chancellor can just step in and just like veto it, and we'll talk about this more.
Okay. Right,
but can't the Senate also override the veto?
Yes, with a 2/3 majority. Yeah. And the king can also overrule the chancellor's veto.
Yeah, so I think the failed state, like the checks and balances there are quite good.
So, any other comments on the Chancellor section before we move on?
Should the Chancellor be able to should they have to approve all the laws instead of veto? Because
no.
No. Don't do that. No, that's too much. Don't do that.
It's kind of the same thing. You already have to approve all the laws by not vetoing them, so.
There's too much bureaucracy, too much waiting around.
Everything's gonna be like 10 times slower if we have to wait for him to say yes.
Yeah,
the Chancellor should already be active, and votes already take 24 hours to pass, anyways. So.
But then, why would we need to do that?
We only have the approval system for consti amendments. Then we need the approval. Normal bills.
And then we always wait for him to be around. Like, nah, that's not.
Yeah, it's unnecessary, I think.
Okay.
Also, for constitutional amendments.
All right, everyone, let's move on to the next section, which is the Senate of the Imperial Federation. That's Section 3. So let's just read what the Senate explicitly has the power over currently. It says Foreign Affairs and Diplomacy. This is something that's quite interesting because it says the Senate has the power over that, although the Senate has not really used that power. It seems to have been the Chancellor and the King doing that. So that seems like quite an interesting.
Should be the King.
Free credit.
I think this is one of the problems in the Constitution where it's been written over many times, and now we have some conflicting sections. Like right here, it says the Senate has the power to do that, but in other places it also says the Chancellor and King should do that. So what's the consensus on that? Should it be the Senate or the Chancellor? Or
I think the King, Chancellor, write treaties and such. And foreign stuff, and then the Senate approves it.
Yeah, the king should be the primary diplomat always because they're stable. They don't change with elections. And then you have the actual power to sign bills and treaties and whatever always lies. The Senate has to approve actual signings and such, but it's handled in practice, negotiations and stuff, by the king and chancellor.
I see.
So the Senate has to sign off on it, but it's led by others.
That's fair enough. And also, one thing about that is, previously, in the previous Imperial Federation, the Senate had to approve any treaties by a 2/3 majority vote, kind of like how it is in the U.S. But currently, it's just a majority vote. Do we think a 2/3 majority vote might be of some benefit or not?
I think we should do that based on what it's regarding. If it's like a military alliance, we should do 2/3 because that's a quite important thing. But it's just like a CUB agreement with Pavia, like set up a rail. That's like it's gonna pass anyways, but then it doesn't need 2/3.
Okay. So we'll review on what exactly that should be. Let's see what the other things the Senate has the authority over. There's federal criminal codes. I doubt anyone has any. If anyone has any objections to any of these, just say it. Defense and defensive infrastructure.
We do have a legal code that's established.
Yes. Defense and defensive. Oh, you have an objection to that? Yes. What's your objection, Sloth?
That part's like useless, so because the Senate does not have control over states on like defensive stuff. The Senate, like if the Senate like decided like the states had to give up all their defensive infrastructure, it just couldn't do it. So it's
not gonna happen.
That's not the purpose of it.
It is.
No, the purpose isn't to like be able to federalize private bunkers or state bunkers. It's just like the Senate is in charge of handling the general security of the nation, and then they delegate that responsibility to the Department of Defense. Like they're not supposed to be like, oh, we're gonna confiscate your bunkers. They are supposed to establish ice roads, bunkers for everyone, kind of. They're in charge.
They like should be able to technically, because it says it has the power over the state, over military infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, they have the authority in terms of like they can do what they want in the states with military infra, but they can't take people. Okay, this maybe should be clarified a little, JM, to note that. At this point.
Yeah, because I'll point out there was one time earlier in the Imperial Federation where I believe this was during the Spoon's chancellery, where he wanted to build an ice road across the states, and some states disapproved of the ice road being built in their land, but he built it anyway. So do we think that's justified under the Constitution?
Take it as the rails. Use the rails as example.
Yeah. Like that's a good point, because that's not mil infra, but like we're trying to work together to plan. Yeah, we're trying to plan a large overland rail through the entire continent essentially, but like instead of having to go, yeah, we have to go to each. Like the Senate could just build it if they wanted, but we do talk to each state. Like, how do you want it to start? Where do you want it to go? You want it to be underground or overground? Like we do talk to the states. But the Senate can overrule them, because let's say Surmadri is in the center of the continent, but there's supposed to be a rail right through them. Like if they're blocking the connection between the west and the east, that's a problem. So then the Senate needs to be able to step in and say, no, we're doing this, whether you want it or not. Like you can be a part of the process, or we can just do it anyways.
I see. So does anyone have any objections to that? The ability of the Senate?
I feel like the word power can be replaced with responsibility here, but yeah, I agree with what you said.
No, it's good that they have like it could be power and responsibility. If it's just responsibility, then it's like you're supposed to do this. But if it's power or authority, it means that the Senate can overrule a state on certain things.
Fair enough.
And also, power means they can actually either way they can.
We have this is actually another important thing, and we'll get to it in a second. Actually, we're right here because it says the Senate does have the power to manage federal land. So a question with that Comrade Sankar brought up is who is in charge of administering federal districts or territory? And this is something that I personally wanted to talk about, where currently all the territories in the Imperial Federation, like Voxia, Surmadru, Verdalon, the Malora ones, they don't really exist.
I mean, it's also
maybe there should be territories written into the Constitution, like specific rights.
Yeah, I think we should. I think there should be more.
I feel like we actually have 3 different delegations. We have territories that like are just territories with like no one living in them. They're like the federal district type.
That's a lot.
Then you've also got territories which are essentially states with not enough people to have senate, which I feel like is different from Because, like, previously, before Akron and whatever Asa's state were, that entire area was, like, a district or whatever. I don't remember what it was exactly called. They didn't essentially have territory as senators, mostly because no one was living there. But Akron and whatever also had to be renamed to territories once it started off.
Yes, that seems like a good idea. Maybe we could separate federal districts and federal territories. Or federal territories have some...
And you could also have... Because I don't think like a state with essentially less than 3 people, it has the same central power as a state. It just doesn't have enough people living there to have a senator. The senator itself is doing the voting, whereas a territorial senator do that.
I think we in general in the Senate should discuss like kind of reworking how land is managed. Like we have the states, then we have like territories which are managed by someone, and then there's federal land which isn't managed by someone. It's just under the power. Like the Senate is empowered to grant it to someone. But then there also needs to be like crispy here. There you go. Like stuff like nuclear or like military territories, like territories which are supposed to be like for specific stuff, like the capital, a vault, or like a huge ass farming area, like stuff that needs to be managed by the government and be outside the purview of any territory or state. Like no one's supposed to live there. So there should be multiple different classifications of land, basically. That's something the Senate should work on.
Okay, so that can be discussed later, but I think we're in general agreement that there should be some actual organization of territories. So there's a few more other things to discuss here. There's mediation of disputes between states. I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Currency creation and enforcement. Why not? Citizenship.
Never mind, sorry, go on.
Citizenship is something that may be important. That currently the Senate can just strip anyone's citizenship with a majority vote. Do we think that's reasonable, or does anyone have problems with that?
I think it should be. Yeah, 2/3 majority or something. It's kind of necessary that the Senate can strip citizenships if necessary.
Do we think 2/3 is better?
Yeah, Senate has the most diversity. Like, there's more people who are gonna have different opinions. I think that's where the power should lie, and it needs to be in like lower people count place. Especially now with the Senate having a lot of people, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I forgot the word. There was a proposal a while back that I was writing with a couple people regarding like how to rewrite citizenship stuff. Which would include that citizenship could be stripped by either the Senate and a 2/3 majority vote, or by like the king, the chancellor, and like the judges. Because like let's say Thule harbors like someone who's wanted by the rest of the IF, or like wanted internationally, like someone who's problematic. We say it's a state citizen, so he can stay, but he's causing problems for the rest of the country. Then the Senate needs to be able to step in and say no. You have to think of like the greater picture here. So it's good that they have the power, but it maybe should be worked on a little bit, like how many votes is needed or who else can do it.
Alright, so we'll discuss that more. And then the final one, and this should probably be removed in my opinion. It says federal constitutional disputes. That's a holdover from when there was no judiciary, but I'd say personally that should probably be a judiciary power.
Give it to the judiciary.
It actually says that in the judiciary as well, so that should probably be removed. Yeah. Senate approves laws by a majority vote. That's reasonable. And see if anyone else have anything to talk about the Senate. Actually, here's one. It says this is something about the creation of new states. It says senators may approve the creation or addition of new states by a majority vote, and then it says new states must have clearly defined borders and a population of 2 or more to be eligible for statehood. Now, to have a senator, you need 3 people, but this says that you can be a state with 2. So does anyone have an objection to that?
I think it should have state as 1, but because we have the requirement of senator as 3, And
I think it's.
I assume that's where the difference is, where there's the territories, like the federal territories, and then people are like, all right, I'm going to create a state here, but they can't actually become like a defined state with borders until they have a second person.
So maybe we can discuss that with territorial changes, changing that.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to know with the whole thing regarding the Senate and stuff and laws. It's the whole like the Senate, like in terms of the Discord stuff. Like we choose our own conduct, whatever it's called. I think that should be regulated a bit more. Like people who should because the Senate, like senators, regularly leak stuff from the discussions to people who shouldn't.
Well, that can be discussed later.
Yeah. So just note that we should discuss like how stuff actually happens.
Any other discussions? It actually says the Senate shall meet in the Capital District. We should probably do that sometime. Any other?
Supposed to mean?
I don't know.
Oh, they should meet in the Capital District. We should just take that out because it. Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool LARP thing, but it's never happening. So.
And there's any other
cool,
points on the Senate?
Really
Anyone else want to bring something up before we move on? Okay, we'll move on. Section 4 is states of the Imperial Federation. And I'll just read off the rights of states if anyone has a problem with that. It says states have the power to form their own government so long as it does not conflict with this document. There's create any laws on internal matters that do not violate anything else stated in this document. Manage their own territory. And then finally, anything not explicitly given to the federal government is given to the states. Does anyone have any comments on the way states work?
After a discussion today with like holistic regarding the wording on that, I think we should clarify that these are the rights of a state in the IF, and not like multiple states.
I see.
Like each state gets the rights, but it's meant like in terms of this is the state. These are the rights of a state.
Individual states have the power to.
Yeah, exactly. Just regarding the wording, because that caused a little bit of a discussion earlier today.
Or is that under subsection?
Yeah, but don't go there. But just like clarify that whole section.
Okay. And then there's also things that it explicitly says states cannot do. It says states cannot harbor criminals of other state, bar passage of IF citizens throughout public territory except criminals, secede without permission.
Whoa, hold on.
Oh, yes.
Does that mean that so if one state puts somebody as pro on site, and that person goes to another state, that other state must do their best to obey the pro on site order, or at least not protect them actively?
Yes, that would be a certain thing to bring up. That could be it.
I think it's just harboring, so they just can't keep them in the state whenever possible, can't shelter them. Nothing about going after.
Yes, I believe that would be the correct interpretation.
I think, well, first of all, have we even practiced this fact that states can issue pro on site orders for citizens of the IF? Is that...
I think that's covered by the
I don't think that
there has been only one example. There has been only one example in the past year and a half when one state barred another state citizens from entering their territory, and that was back in, I think it was in January or February 2023 when Keone passed a specific law to ban someone from their state.
So do we think that's reasonable?
I think that should be up for discussion. Mostly because I think we've reformed the judiciary since then, and that that a state cannot issue a POS order, and it must go through the judiciary.
What about a state banning other states or banning other citizens?
I think that is okay. However,
where does it say
cannot
that
enforce
that
that outside of their border?
Where does it say that a state can issue a pro on site order?
Well, because it's implying that a state can issue the pro on site order because another state cannot harbor someone who is POS.
Yeah, well, the ruling is that states. Let me explain where this would come from. So the judiciary says that crimes. The judiciary section says crimes in one state can be tried in that state specifically, and not with the federal judiciary. So that would be where that comes from. But any ruling by a state can be appealed to the federal judiciary. So the federal judiciary can theoretically overturn that.
And also the Constitution limits who can issue pro-on-site orders. So even
I
if
think
like
we should explicitly state that a judiciary, whether it's a state judiciary or something like that, a judiciary after a court case issue a POS order, not beforehand.
I
You know what I'm
I mean,
saying?
I think the states should have like. Kind of depends because they can't just go POSing anyone. They
Yeah,
can obviously
because that's-
it's not, they can make their own laws like as long as they don't like make a problem with federal laws. But like let's say Blue breaks a law in my state and like raids something in my state. I'm not going to wait for the judiciary or the DOD to order a POS order. I'm going to pearl them. And then like I should say if the or the senates or the states can issue a POS order on anyone that breaks a federal law within the state, essentially, and then it's handled by the judiciary after that.
Maybe we should set a minimum parole time.
Actually, there is a section on that in the Constitution.
That the server's struggling.
I assume so because
Server is struggling. Gee whiz.
It might only be 24 hours.
Yeah, so the Constitution says cases with sentences of more than a week of parole time or a fine of more than 32 diamonds are automatically appealed to the judiciary, and this appeal cannot be rejected. But, let's stay on the Senate section right now.
Yeah, which part are we in?
We can move on to the states.
Yeah, we're at the states, section 4. Here's something that it says section 5 talks about something called free cities. Now, there was only one free city established. That was in like September of 2022 or October. Do we think there's a need for free cities to state in the Constitution? Or...
Wait, section 5?
Yes, section 5. This could probably be discussed with the territorial part too.
Was the free city? I'm trying to. Was it? I want to say it was probably Freeport.
It was Lovira, which was just one random person who said he wanted a free city.
I mean, I think we should like put that under the whole discuss.
Yes.
A whole territory management thing.
Okay. And one final thing that some people may find interesting is that there's
I don't think it's a bad idea to have that if it's not used much. Okay, but the odds are we're gonna at some point have a person, and we should have some.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. That can be discussed with the territories. And then the final section in the states, it gives a very in-depth and long process in which a state's leadership can be sort of changed by the Senate. The way that starts is that 2 citizens of that state petition the federal government to review the state's leadership and possibly step in and change it. So do people think this... It's never been done before, but it's a possibility. It's Section 7. So do people believe that that's a reasonable thing? That citizens of a state can ask the federal government to step in if they don't like the leadership?
Yeah. That's good.
I agree, but I think it should be changed from like 2 people to like 6 or something. At a certain population,
they only have 2 people.
Yeah, so like if you have 1 senator, it should be like a set amount of people. Otherwise, it should be like a fraction. Because if you have like 10 people, that means 2 people can request. No.
Well, they can request. Doesn't mean like.
Yeah, so
it's an inquiry. It doesn't hold too much seriousness. And if those 2 people do genuinely end up having a point, then that will be turned up in the investigation. So I think this keeps a good balance where it allows the Fed to keep problematic state governments under control.
Is the method of inquiry defined?
Federal judge.
It says they may
single federal judge?
petition the federal government. And then it says the submitted evidence, the federal judge shall issue a change of leadership order at their discretion. So this is actually the judge who does this.
That seems like something that is rather powerful for a single judge to decide.
I think it should be 2/3 of the judiciary.
Just move it from the judge to the Senate, because I don't think the judiciary should really have control over state governments. But if the Senate deems it so, then that's, act of nation.
Should it be 2/3 judiciary and half the Senate?
Maybe the judiciary has to recommend it to the Senate.
We're still talking about removal of state leadership, right?
Right, so we'll review that section further.
But I think it's kind of like, I think the states should have more power on this end, like on the whole, who leads the state. Like there should be very little that the federal government can do about. Like they can only do stuff like if the leadership is actively like hurting the state or like not doing anything. Like if someone's had a state for 6 months and not put down a single block, obviously that's bad. Or like if they're going around and breaking a bunch of laws, that's also bad. But in general, unless the state leadership is actively not behaving or like doing something bad, they shouldn't. Like, you can't just remove them because someone likes it. Because like two people appeals and says no, this is, we don't like it.
Maybe there should be a benchmark for anti-democratic behavior.
It says the petition has to be because the leadership hasn't been reasonably active or committed a high crime. So it just can't be because.
Okay, so they have to cite a specific offense or something prior.
Like the petition has not been reasonably
there's a
active,
precondition
and been convicted of high crimes as defined by the federal legal code, or as otherwise derelicted constitutionally or legally defined duties.
I think we shouldn't name certain preconditions, but inactivity and a high crime are probably two of the major ones. I'm gonna bet that there's the off chance that there's just a shitty leader, but
okay. So that sounds like we have some discussion on that. Let's move on. Elections. Okay.
I think it is necessary to have the power. What it's defined as can be up for debate, but you don't want to have a place or a position where essentially the leader cannot be.
So the way elections work right now, there's this one thing. It says all active citizens have the right to vote. And then immediately after, it defines an active citizen as someone who has been within Imperial Federation snitch fields within a 2-week period of the election. Now that has not been enforced. We've made it a month. So should we just write that into a constitution?
Better?
And I think it should. How is the registration? Because I think we should type that in.
So how it currently works, or it worked last election, was that the robot our beloved tech department made, Jalf and Best Firetop, I think, essentially measures and like checks your Kira auth ID, like your username, in-game username, towards like the snitch hits, and sees have you hit a IF snitch within the past month, and if you have, you're registering good. That's all.
I think most people agree that's reasonable.
But the idea is that to make it a specific snitch, like your own state. So you can't just hit any snitch or like halfway across the world as an IF snitch. You have to hit a specific one. Like so, you're essentially registering manually with intent.
Yes, that should probably be within the Federation.
Yeah, so that's the idea of that part. Maybe that should be clarified. I don't know. I think that was unconstitutional somehow.
Okay. Yes.
But
I think it should be an IF snitch rather than a specific snitch. I'm assuming the bot, according to what I saw in its setup, I think it was indexing every snippet in the Discord. I think it's very possible that there's a group with a snitch that is probably not in the IF.
Yes.
Probably simple.
Quite possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you have these registration snitches put out by the Fed, not the states. Specific points where they're like you can't hit them by accident. You have to specifically go there to hit it. That's the idea.
As I believe
registration was also used to active citizens versus people who wanted to register to vote. And
yeah,
you know, there are people who not vote but are active.
because another thing with the whole like where you put the snitch is the thing that like Vanaheim, for example, their registration snitch is on the middle of their like central plaza. So everyone who goes to Vanaheim, no matter if they're a citizen or not, registers by default.
Yes,
which isn't the purpose. So
yes, we can review that.
Well, I think I'm hoping that a requirement are current is fine.
And there's some other things too, but I think we should move on to the second part where people can just discuss the Federation, because this has been going on for quite a while. Does anyone have anything like extremely urgent to discuss? The rest can be discussed in text later, asynchronously. So let's move on to the part 2 of this, the second part of this, which was that we discussed just the general state of the server and the Federation, any build ideas people would like to bring up. If everyone would return to the convention hall, please. We're moving on to a part where there may be more involvement, so to speak. Please return. Thank you. Okay, so does anyone would anyone like to speak first? Does anyone have any thoughts on the current Federation right now?
Disband the monarchy, make it a anarchistic state.
Why is there a goat?
Why would there not be a goat?
Whose goat is this?
It's my goat.
Why are you implying goat is someone?
In a boat.
It's very nice.
I don't have enough wood to make a boat, so I cannot complete this joke.
I have a boat. I have a boat. Get in my boat. You
My
goat.
secretary is giving me a boat now. Where?
No,
where
I already have a boat. I'm just.
Okay. Wait, why is there a goat? Never mind. I thought I was a goat.
Like, get out of my boat. I want to put my goat in a boat.
I see.
Why is there a goat?
It's a goat. Why are you here, you little shit?
Now I'm confused. Never mind.
Is the meeting concluded? Let's ask each individual state if they have any issues they'd like to bring up. Groveheart, do you have any issues you'd like to bring up?
Groveheart does not currently have any pressing issues we'd like to speak on.
Slothistan, do you have any issues you would like to bring up? Even though you're in my chair, that's okay.
I am. Yeah, I will.
It appears Slothistan does not have any issues there. That's not fair. Regensburg, do you have any issues you would like to bring up?
Secession.
Yes, what would you like to bring up on secession?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because not everyone here is in the Senate. But there was a discussion earlier today that's quite long regarding like how the const is worded regarding secession and how it can happen, like in practice. And I think that should be clarified and made harder. Essentially, it should be more work.
What would your proposal be on secession?
I think you should need like approval of the king, the chancellor, and like the judiciary plus the Senate, not just 2/3 Senate. There should be more people involved in approving it instead of just having a 2/3 majority approve it in the Senate.
Does anyone have any comments on that? Bihalia says nay in chat. But, any other comments on that?
I just
feel
think
like rape will just make people do it illegally.
Yeah,
Okay.
but the thing is with like a state can relatively easily currently stack a bunch of senators. Like if you can just grab 10 new friends, you suddenly have like 3 senators. Yeah.
But
Which is
my biggest fear is I prefer, even if it's not done nicely, a gentle legal secession where everybody knows what's happening, to a secession where the bar is so high that people just get angry and try to do it on its own. And even if it ends up with no consequences to the Federation, it would be a bigger headache and would cause more international problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I get the point, but I just think secessions should be harder than having 16 senators vote for it, or like 13 senators. Like 13 senators is not a lot.
Asger.
Yeah.
Dude, the last secession crisis, no one fucking cared about whether the Senate's gonna vote or not gonna vote. When a state wants to leave, they're gonna leave one way or another. And if you're gonna lock them down and chain them to the rest of the Federation, what's gonna happen is the same thing that happened to Arsenio back when they did not want to let one of their groups have more power inside the country or go their own way. They fucking incited the whole nation. There is no way that you can force someone to stay no matter what you want to do with it.
Now,
And
I
get
agree with that.
and getting 2/3 of a senator is actually quite a lot. So let's say you get 10 people in your state, you want to leave. That means you have 3 senators, right, by the calculation. But at the same time, that means that the number of the senators in the Senate went from 18 to 21. So tell me, how are you gonna get 14 senators to support your secession? It is freaking difficult.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing the issues with it. Then I would ask something else, that the people, of course, we can leave it as is 2/3, and then
2/3 plus chancellor and king.
Yeah, or 2/3 plus king,
Or
something.
one or the other, yeah.
But I would add something about what that IF has primacy in what they can keep stuff in the states. If we take Asgard, for example, that was negotiated with Asgard, but they can, legally speaking, from the IF's view, if a nation with an important farm secedes, fine, let them leave. But the IF is keeping everything, everything of value.
So is that going to be a unilateral agreement, or is that negotiated?
No, that's the baseline. It can be negotiated from there, but baseline, IF keeps everything.
What stops the state from just leaving and taking the farm with them if they don't want to negotiate?
The state, the IF owns all of the federal farms. Let's say.
Then that makes sense. State's not going to be able to do anything with the farm if the farm is on the right route.
Yeah,
but if the farm is in, that should be if there's a federally owned item. Now, if there's a large farm that the state has the primary groups on, but IF is needed, then that will be negotiated. The state has primary groups.
But the baseline. The baseline is that if the IF made something that the IF owns in a state, they keep it. Baseline. It can be negotiated to secure
stay
something.
within the state's borders. So is that new state obligated to keep its borders open to anyone in the IF to go to the farm?
Essentially, because you can't move the farm, but if the government put in or people put in a bunch of resources and time into making a huge farm, for example, Imperial Federation has almost all of the non-frozen crops of the IF. If Imperial Federation seceded and somehow took all the farms, the IF would be crippled. Now that's never going to happen in practice because the IF owns all the farms.
How much of those were built by the IF, and how many were built by specific residents, like Potato, for example?
I mean, I think Potato built most of them, but they were built for the IF on IF groups. But
no, they're not. See, that's the thing. What you're missing is no one does because they're. Hold on, can I speak for Imperial Federation?
Yes. Let's allow Imperial Federation to speak.
So Imperial Federation, it has a bunch of farms, yes, but there are only 2 farms that are currently reinforced in the groups that are owned by the IF, and these are the wheat farm. And the second one is the oak/birch farm. Sugarcane is not reinforced. Mushrooms are not reinforced. Bamboo is not reinforced. Cacao is not reinforced. So
those are unreinforceable.
Exactly. So how are you gonna judge who's the primary owner of those farms that are not reinforced?
That brings me to another point. If there are groups, of course, if Potato makes a farm on his NL, for example, and he secedes, he can keep it, but the IF gets to keep a portion of land equivalent, necessary for the farm to be able to happen. So, if the IF needs jungle land, they get to keep a slice necessary for the farm. For example, essentially, the no secession. What I want to say is no secession should be able to cripple the IF's XP production. That's it. And
but then it sounds like the IF needs to diversify where we get our XP.
I mean, that would entail claiming more stuff unnecessarily. That's all.
Is it unnecessary, or is it because we produce more XP?
Redundancy.
We have claiming more land for possible scenarios is a bad thing. Like we don't need to. We're not gonna go claiming a bunch more land in case someone secedes. Which I'm just saying, like, if a state secedes, the IF, like, baseline, they keep what's necessary to produce the IF, like what's necessary in that land to produce XP minimum.
All right, let's end this in a minute. Yeah, we've been talking about this for a while. Any other comments on Regensburg's point before we move on to the next thing?
My only point is
I've been
that
yapping a lot long enough.
we should actually, instead of trying to figure out how to make secession harder and what to do if the secession happen, ensure that we actually provide for all the states equally in order to not make them want to leave the Federation in the first place. And it's actually not really that difficult at all. I mean, what we have achieved today by bringing all these people together is one of the things that could be done more often. It would actually create more of a sense of a community. So, and since Imperial Caridia was mentioned as one of the places that could potentially even has all the nice farms, honestly, I see no reason why I would take Caridia on a path of independence. I mean, I piss blood for this nation, and there is no reason for me to abandon it in any form. And given that we are all able to actually negotiate concerning the funds and all that stuff, I honestly don't see a reason why we should even be discussing this ideas of secession in depth. I mean, I understand the point that Asger made, but I think that's not such a major priority. I think we should first focus on how to bring the nation even closer together. So that's just what I want to say.
All right.
Plan for the worst, happen or hope for the best.
Yes. So does the state of Holland, which has no one here, have anything to bring up? Surprisingly not. The state of Godhaven, which is me, so I'll go over. And Mr. Nixon here. Hello, Mr. Nixon. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite all right. Thank you very much.
That's excellent to hear. Do you have any? Does the state of Godhaven have any objections? We'll say no for right now. Does the state of or do any of the imperial territories have any objections? Magio, Granada, or any of the other territories, such as the colonies from out of abroad? Nothing from there. There was one thought from Myhalia of Acher, Ackerman. He said that this meeting has been used by the department heads to consolidate their power away from the states. I'll just bring that up. That is what he said. Does anyone have any objections to that statement? Any thoughts on that statement?
What does he mean by that?
Let's see what he says in chat.
Where?
He said it a while ago, and then I said I'd say it. He whispered it to me.
Can you type it
I actually agree with him. I actually agree with him a lot.
That what these department heads are using this meeting to
because if you think about it, that's one person. Why should they like decide like 10 times? Like why should they have more power than like the whole like other 20 people in the Senate? Like what?
They are appointed by the Senate, or like they are approved by the Senate. They're not unilaterally powerful. They need
I know, but they don't need more. They don't need more power. That's fine.
They do also gain power over time because it becomes harder and harder for them to be removed from their position.
Not really, but I'm not understanding like what part of this meeting has been used to increase the department head's powers.
I'm not sure where Myhalia is. He hasn't responded, so I guess we can move on because he has not said anything. Vanaheim, do you have anything? Any final thoughts?
Oh yeah. Well,
okay.
We need to make the campaign thing longer. It only lasts like 2 days, and then there nothing happens. Like there's no like meeting. There's no nothing happens in those days. We need to make it longer, just so they have more time to like really see who's more fit.
We used to have debates, but I think what happened was they became hard-ish to organize, I would assume. Is that
Yes,
about right?
I always ran the debate. I mean, part of the problem was for, I think, 3 straight elections, one of the candidates was deaf. So that...
No, But just extend it by like 2 more days or something, and then we'll have a lot more to like. There'll be a lot more time to like see who should really be fit.
Yeah. Vanaheim has something to say. Yeah. What is it?
I think Robbie has.
Yes, we'll wait for the message in chat. In a moment. He said the message is, I'm concerned with who is taking over the economic department.
Which I don't think is a concern for this meeting.
True. It's gonna be whoever's gonna be where Gabe is gonna pick if he gets confirmed by the Senate, of course.
So that's up to Gabe if he's not here. So.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh, my apologies.
The Chancellor's alive!
I'm alive. I've been sitting by and just looking at everyone's beautiful, listening to everyone's beautiful voices.
Excellent. Do you have a thought on the economic department head?
Not saying anything publicly just yet.
I see.
So it feels like,
But I do have somebody in mind.
So does the state of Nelora have anything to say right now?
Nope.
What about the state of Godia, or the Godian Empire?
Nothing to add. No.
Does the state of Thule have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
What about the state of Withervale? Oh, Withervale has something to add, yes. Type it in chat and then I'll read it for everyone.
Thanks, Walker's here.
Yes, that's a concern.
He just showed up to visit.
I had tomatoes boots.
Is that the concern?
I want to note something on the whole.
I've been trying to say that while drunk the whole time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Frost Warrior suggests that the king judge be replaced. One of the judges currently is the king, and he's suggesting it's replaced by a royal judge who's someone appointed by the king. Now, as the person who actually came up with the idea of having the 3 judges, that was actually originally my idea, that the king would appoint someone and not just have himself be the judge. He could appoint himself. But I just forgot. I didn't feel like pressing it back then, so I didn't do that. But I'll say I'm personally in favor of that. If the king wants to nominate someone else, they should do that.
As the IF gets bigger, I think the king should have the option to either be judge himself or appoint someone to be the judge. I don't think.
Yeah, that would be the idea. Yes, the king could nominate himself to be the judge.
Yeah, then I think that is completely great. That's actually a good idea.
Also, the question there is: does he nominate or does he pick?
Pick.
Okay, yeah.
Because right now he's the judge anyway, so does it really matter?
Yeah, no, but what I mean is like it's a big change from going from he is the judge to he nominates the judge. So if he nominates, he gets approval.
Well, what would be written in the Constitution is we'd go forward with the assumption that Jelf technically won't always be king. I think what we would want to do is basically just have a vote, yes or no, for the nomination.
I just say that the king picks the king's judge. That's it.
Yeah. I'm not opposed either way, but I personally think it would be a check balance. But you know, I would hope the king is always.
I'd be surprised if the king stopped being loyal to his kingdom.
Alright, so that seems like something we can discuss, but generally we seem to be in favor of allowing the king to choose someone else to be in his place. And as the representative from Godhaven, since I didn't speak earlier, I'd like to, Godhaven would like to suggest that we have more in-game events, specifically some sort of state Olympic competition, maybe some sort of race across the Imperial Federation or something like that.
I mean, given the size of our population, I mean, we could organize hockey tournaments at this point.
Yes, that was my suggestion. And also possibly some sort of, so that we can get more players, the Senate funds a recruiting competition where whoever recruits the most players into the Discord gets some sort of reward, or whoever refers gets the most citizens to join, so that we can increase our population and encourage people to advertise. Okay, any other thoughts on that?
Maybe setting up like tutorial places.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And finally, do any representatives from New Callisto or any federal non-territorial representatives have anything to add?
I just want to make a note on the whole like education thing that Gabe mentioned just a second ago. We officially have a Department of Education. There's just no one in it to run it or operate it. Because the guy who really wanted to run it didn't
I
want to
have
run
qualifications in education.
it. Apply, I guess. No one's stopping
I
you.
think I'd rather not actually.
Yeah, figured.
Okay. So does anyone have anyone here have any final thoughts to add?
I do. I make a motion to adjourn this meeting permanently.
I want to question though about the
Motion denied. Yes. What's your point?
I forgot what to say. The campaign thing we mentioned a couple minutes ago.
Oh wait, yes. I apologize. I forgot to ask Slothistan. Does Slothistan have any thoughts? Yes. What is your point, Sloth? No thoughts. Okay. Go on. Ask.
Where'd I get this cake from? Oh.
Oh.
Things are just spawning in my hands.
Nice.
I'm way drunk.
Very nice.
I didn't get a cake.
Sloth, have a cake.
You definitely should have gotten a cake.
Oh, I definitely got a cake.
Yeah, a cake. So any final thoughts about the state of the Federation?
Yes.
Did everybody get like the anniversary gifts?
Grove Heart requests a donation of 32.
Even if you're offline. That's
no.
right. Okay.
No.
Sorry, that was just my question. Like,
It appears we're in agreement that Grove Heart should not get these 32 iron blocks.
Oh shit!
Hello. I adjourn. That's the end of this convention.